What is up, guys? Slow the Savage back, and I am here with NFL Week 3 predictions. Sorry, no, Week Will Lutz predictions. You better know that, because that's your boy Will Lutz, Saints kicker number 3. But anyways, I'm here with Week 3 predictions. Got a lot of predictions to get to, but anyone who's new to this, if you just want to see me get to certain teams' predictions, like, I'm leaving timestamps in the description below, so if you just want to see your team, click that. And also, while you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because it means a lot when you do that, because, you know, one person, get a new person to subscribe, new person to like, it does mean a lot to me. But anyways, got a lot of predictions to get to, so without further ado, let's get this video started. Alright, so we are starting out with our Thursday Night Football match between the Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dear God, I actually want to die thinking about this matchup. This is like one of the worst that you can get. If you ever get the Jags on a primetime game, I think I'd choose death. But anyway, starting off with the Dolphins, you know, last week, you guys were in contention with the Bills for a long time. Starting off with Ryan Fitzpatrick, man, threw for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks against the Bills defense. That's amazing. But at the same time, the Bills, they were missing a lot of their linebackers, and Trey White was getting burned quite often. So there's some questions, but good job nonetheless. So in terms of rushing, wasn't much. Myles Gaskin had 46 rushing yards. Breida had 37. Fitzpatrick had 12. And Jordan Howard had 4. But anyways, in terms of receiving, your big guy was Mike Gesicki. 8 receptions, 130 yards and a touchdown. And Isaiah Ford with 76 receiving yards. Devontae Parker, 53 and a touchdown. And that was pretty much it. So good job on you guys. I mean, your defense, of course, they faltered to Buffalo. But Josh Allen loves playing Buffalo because he threw for 415 yards against them. Anyways, Jaguars, you know, you're 1-1. But I'm interested to see you guys, because I was expecting you to be in the tank for Trevor, but you're showing yourself. You're playing up to your competition, which may wreck you in the end. But anyways, Gardner Minshew, 339 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks, you know, through just 1 late crucial pick. So good game. And, you know, John Robinson, you know, you don't need number 1 running back. Like, running backs are replaceable. He had 16 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Receiving, your leader was DJ Chark with 84 yards, no touchdowns. But Kenny Cole Sr., 58 yards and a touchdown. Chris Conley, 48 yards. And that was it. So honestly, and of course your defense fell apart to the Jaguars. Derrick Henry didn't even have that big a game against you, but Tannehill did well, and those 2 picks cost you in the end. So right now, the Jaguars, I think they're favored by like 2 to win, and I'm going to say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the LA Rams. Starting off with the Rams, you know, last week, I had you losing to Philly, but, you know, you guys did an amazing job against them. Sure, you did beat up on a shit defense, and Carson Wentz was just absolutely terrible. But good job, you know, scoring 37 points, that's very good. Jared Goff, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. You know, is he making a return? It's kind of like McVay's back. He's better than ever. Darrell Henderson only had 81 rushing yards for a touchdown. Actually, no. Like, that's good. That's good. And Malcolm Brown only had 47 yards. So I guess Darrell Henderson's going to be the number 1, because Cam Akers also only had 13 yards. So, yeah. In terms of receiving, your guy was Cooper Kupp. 5 receptions, 81 yards. Sure, he led in receiving, but the big man for you was Tyler Higbee. 5 receptions, 54 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Robert Woods did a very good job. Sure, he only got 14 receiving yards, but he had 19 rushing yards and a touchdown. So good job overall. Defense did well against Philly. And then the Bills, like, great game last week. Sure, it's against the Dolphins. I need to see you beat someone real before I believe in the Josh Allen hype. Even though he threw for 415 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is just unreal for him. Devin Singletary ran for 56 yards, did okay, but of course, bringing in Stephon Diggs was a great add. 8 receptions, 153 yards and a touchdown. John Brown followed it up with 82 receiving yards and a touchdown. Right along Cole Beasley, 70 yards. But yeah, no. Other than that, good game in general. Yeah, your defense I do have concerns about. I know most of your linebackers are gone, but faltering to the Dolphins has got some questions, but they got a good offense, so it's not too bad. Bills are favored by 2.5 to win, and I do say they win and cover. And now you have our very next matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots. Starting off with the Raiders, great game last week, even though you beat up my Saints. Like I talked about this in my review, you guys played an amazing game. No doubt about that. Derek Carr, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Did amazing against the Saints. Sure, he took about 3 sacks, but didn't phase him. Josh Jacobs, yeah, you're going up against a really good pass rush defense, which is why you had only 88 yards. But you did what you needed to do, so well done. In terms of receiving, no one really thrived outside of Darren Waller. 12 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Just found a way to pick apart the Saints. And other than that, you had some guys who just made some like clutch catches, so very good. The defense did a good job holding the Saints in check for at least for about half the game. So well done to you, Raiders, and the Patriots. So Cam Newton, 397 yards, a touchdown and a pick, played an amazing game against the Seahawks, followed up with 47 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Other than that, in terms of rushing, no one did well. In terms of receiving, Julian Edelman, like, I can't get a grasp of him. Everyone thinks he's overrated. Some people think he's underrated. Like, I have mixed feelings about him, and he had 8 receptions, 179 yards. It's amazing. You know, Darrell Byrd, 72 yards, N'Keal Harry, 72 yards, but if I'm going to shred you for something, well, your defense, of course, fell apart to the Seahawks, but that's not too bad. I mean, you did get a pick 6 off them, but that was because Greg Olsen couldn't make a catch. What the hell was your last play? So, you were in I formation, and you tried to do a QB sneak with Cam Newton. That was just a horrible, horrible play call. Like, it wouldn't be so bad if you didn't do that, like, 3 times earlier in that game. And, like, the big success was the 1-yard pass to the fullback, Josh Johnson. Like, the only way that would have worked is, like, if you did, like, a fleur-de-lis or did, like, the Derrick Henry jump pass. Like, everyone knew it. The fans knew it. Even the Seahawks, they knew it, and that's why it got stuffed so quickly. So, I definitely would have done, like, a pass or maybe, like, a bit of a more interesting run, maybe, like, a fullback dive into the end zone. But anyways, Patriots are favored by 5.5, but you know what? I'm going to take the Raiders this week. I'm going to say the Raiders stun everyone and get off to a 3-0 start. Raiders win. And that might be upset of the week. And now you have our very next match between the Washington football team and the Cleveland Browns. Starting off with the football team, you're going to Arizona. I had no expectations for you, and you did. And exactly, your expectations, well, you didn't disappoint me at all. You lost. Dwayne Haskins, 223 yards, a touchdown and no picks. Did okay for himself. Antonio Gibson, 55 rushing yards and a touchdown. J.D. McKissick had 53 yards. So honestly, the rushing game was okay. Your big star of the week was Terry McLaurin, 7 receptions, 125 yards. Other than that, you know, you had Steve Sims Jr., 53 yards, and other than that, no one could crack over 25 yards. In terms of your defense, you fell apart to Kyler Murray, but honestly, this kid's got great potential. I could see a whole lot out of Kyler Murray in the future. And then the Cleveland Browns, going up against the Bengals, you did a good job. You know, Baker Mayfield, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did throw 1 pick. Start of the game, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt just completely ravaged that defense. Nick Chubb had 124 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt only had 86 yards and a touchdown, but he did a lot more on the ground as he had 15 yards and a touchdown. So honestly, a great, great job you guys did. OBJ, 4 receptions, 74 yards and a touchdown. Jarvis Landry, he only had about 46 receiving yards and a touchdown. But your defense fell apart to the Bengals, but you know, they got good potential, but your front 7 just completely feasted on Joe Burrow because, well, he's got no O-line, so he was sure from the beginning. Browns are favored by 7 to win. I say they win, but don't cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Houston Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Starting out with the Texans, you guys got screwed. Well, not really, but you got such a tough schedule to start the season out. Started out with the Chiefs, you got blown out, and then you got the Ravens, you lost them 33-16. Deshaun Watson, I feel so bad for him. You know, being stuck under Bill O'Brien sucks ass. Here's what happened. 275 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. In terms of rushing, David Johnson, I knew it was a bad idea they traded for him. Only 34 rushing yards and couldn't even do a thing in the air. But in terms of receiving, Brandon Cooks had 95 receiving yards, so a good game by him. Randall Cobb, 59 receiving yards, so yeah, good job. But other than that, you know, you guys were completely lackluster. Your defense falling apart to the Ravens. I understand. Like, it's the Ravens. I don't expect much out of you. But one of your dumbest plays that you did, it was like a 4th and 1 in your own territory, and you go for it. Bill O'Brien, just seriously, fire Bill O'Brien. He's holding you back. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers came off a 26-21 victory over the Denver Broncos, even though they did lose Drew Lock for most of the game. You're going up against Jeff Driscoll, and he did an okay job against you. But anyways, Big Ben threw for 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. So honestly, not bad. James Conner finally broke out, had 106 rushing yards and a touchdown. Benny Snell Jr. just couldn't live up to that Week 1 hype, but that was because James Conner was struggling a lot. In terms of receiving, Deontay Johnson is just pretty good. He's one of the more underrated guys. 92 receiving yards and a touchdown. Calais Claypool, 81 receiving yards and a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, 48 receiving yards and a touchdown. And that's really it. So your defense, of course, falling apart. You against the Broncos and against Jeff Driscoll does have me have a couple questions about you. But if I got to pick a winner for this one, Steelers are favored by 4, and they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Giants. Straight up, San Fran, you are screwed. Everyone is gone. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be missing a little bit of time. Raheem Mostert's out for a while. Tevin Coleman, sure, you guys got a great system, but also you're missing George Kittle. But on the defensive side, you're also screwed because Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa both have torn ACLs, and they are missing the rest of the season. So you guys are just injured to hell and back. So Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 31 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks, but he only played the first half. Nick Mullins, in the time he had, only had 71 yards and a pick, so not bad. Raheem Mostert just had one big rush for 80 yards. He had 92 rushing yards and a touchdown, so good job while he was still in there. Jerick McKinnon, he could be your new number 1 back. He's missed a lot of time, had 77 yards and a touchdown. Your number 1 receiver was Kendrick Bourne, 67 yards, Jordan Reed, 50 yards. But other than that, you guys are kind of screwed with all those injuries. Defense did well, but it's against the Jets, so not much. And then the Giants. Facing up against the Bears, and also you guys are screwed since Saquon just tore his ACL and is out for the season. Daniel Jones, 241 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Not bad, but not great. Evan Ingram had 65 receiving yards. Golden Tate followed it with 47, and that was really it. Your defense did a good job keeping the Bears in check, but Trubisky had a decent start, then just completely faltered, went back to his old self. So yeah, but you did pick up Devontae Freeman in free agency, so he's going to be no Saquon, but not bad to get a replacement. 49ers are favored by 4 to win, and I say they win and cover the spread, because Giants with no Saquon is just nothing. So Giants win. 49ers win. And cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles. Starting off with the Bengals, Joe Burrow, what the hell? You made him throw 61 times. He completed 37 of those for 316 yards and 3 touchdowns with no picks, so honestly, good job. You were left out to die, and you did that. You had a chance, but ultimately just fell short, so good job. Maybe Burrow is the new guy. And I'll believe it. So, Joe Mixon only had 46 rushing yards. Just not his best performance. Joe Burrow, 19 rushing yards. Not much. On terms of receiving, your big guy was Tyler Boyd, 72 receiving yards and a touchdown. Sample only had 45 yards. CJ Ozuma, 40 receiving yards. And AJ Green only had 29 receiving yards. So, yeah. Your defense fell apart to the Browns, but, when they rush the ball as much as they do, there's no stopping them. And then the Eagles. You're so pathetic. If your team is getting booed with no fans in the stands, something is wrong. Starting out with Carson Wentz just was awful. 242 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. Miles Sanders did have an okay game, 95 rushing yards and a touchdown. But in terms of receiving, your big guy was Deshaun Jackson, 6 receptions for 64 yards. Ertz only had 42 yards. Jalen Reagor, 41 yards. So, honestly, it was not a good performance you guys had. You guys are in a lot of trouble. Your defense fell apart to the Rams, but, when their offense clicks, it's pretty hard to stop them. So, yeah. Currently, let's see. Philly's favored by 4.5 to win. I'm going to say they win, but don't cover the spread. You have our very next match between the Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings. Starting off with the Titans, bit of a barn burner against the Jaguars, but overall, you came out on top. Ryan Tannehill, only 239 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. So, honestly, good on him. Derrick Henry had 84 rushing yards, no touchdowns. Definitely not as explosive. They're giving him the ball a lot, but he'll explode eventually. But anyways, the big guy of your big receiver was Jonnu Smith, 84 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Adam Humphries followed up with 48 yards and a touchdown. Corey Davis, 3 receptions, 36 yards and a touchdown. Maybe you're going to want to keep him, Tennessee, because I know you're planning on like letting him go at the end of the year, but I would re-sign him. And then the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins was just awful. Under 50% completion percentage, 113 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 picks. Man, that shows optimism for you guys. But anyways, Dalvin Cook only had 63 rushing yards and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, your big guy was Justin Jefferson, 44 yards. Thielen only had 31 yards, and honestly, that was it. You guys were just so bad. You know, your defense had some trouble containing the Colts, but, you know, with Jonathan Taylor and Phillip Rivers, they did what they needed to do, and they did a decent job against you. So, good on them. If I got to pick a winner for this one, Tennessee is favored by 3 to win. I say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Chicago Bears and the Atlanta Falcons. Starting off with the Bears, look, you faced the Giants team with no Saquon, so of course you're going to win that. Mitch Trubisky threw for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, showing that he is kind of reverting a bit. At least he did at the end. Your big guy of the game was David Montgomery. Even though he only had 82 rushing yards, I mean, that's actually pretty good. But he did follow up with 45 receiving yards and a touchdown, so very good on him. Cordarrelle Patterson had 25 rushing yards. David Mooney, 36 receiving yards and a touchdown. Allen Robinson, obviously he's upset with the team and did not perform, as he had 33 receiving yards and Anthony Miller was just held silent. In terms of your defense, you know, facing off against the Giants, they don't have the greatest offense, so you beat them. Good job. And the Falcons, holy fucking shit, you guys are pathetic. You led 20-0, forced 4 fumbles in the first half of the game, and you blew it. Good job, boys. In terms of passing, Matt Ryan, only 273 yards, 4 touchdowns. Gurley, only 61 yards. Good on him. Calvin Ridley's your big guy. 109, 2 touchdowns. Great on him. Hayden Hurst, 72 yards and a touchdown. But explain to me how you recover an onside kick. Because don't forget, the team that kicks the ball, they have to wait till it gets 10 yards before they can recover it. But for you guys, just wait. Just wait. You could have just jumped on it and ended the game. Like you're facing the Bears, and yeah, you're favored by 3 to win. And I'm going to say you win this one because it's the Bears. It's Mitch Trubisky. You win. Cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup between the New York Jets and the Indianapolis Colts. Starting off with the Jets, you literally had to face a practice squad version of the 49ers. Still fell up short. You guys suck. Anyway, starting off with Sam Darnold, 179 yards, a touchdown, no picks. Honestly, not bad. In terms of rushing, you know, with no Le'Veon Bell, you guys actually did slightly better. Frank Gore, 63 rushing yards. So good on him. In terms of receiving, not really much came out of you if Darnold's only throwing 179 yards. But Chris Hogan, 75 receiving yards. Barrios had 59 yards in the touchdown, so yeah. Defense falling apart to the 49ers. Sure, they did a lot of that damage in the first half, so yeah, no, you lost to a practice squad. And then the Colts, going up against Minnesota, I wasn't sure if you'd be able to handle them, but you did a good job. Picked off Kirk Cousins 3 times. Phillip Rivers threw for 214 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. So if he can just cut back on the picks, I can see some real potential in him. Jonathan Taylor proved that he might be your new number 1 guy. Sure, you got that running back trio with Marlon Mack, Naheem Hines, and Jonathan Taylor, but there's no Marlon Mack, so I guess Jonathan Taylor's going to be the guy. 101 yards and a touchdown. Mike Alley-Cox, 111 receiving yards, and in terms of that, no one else really seemed to break out. I mean, I'm still waiting for T.Y. Hilton to be back, but of course, he misses Andrew Luck. Like, he was like all just with Andrew Luck. Anyways, currently the Colts are favored by 10.5 to win. I'm going to say they win, but don't cover the spread. I'm going to say this game's going to be a lot closer than it really should be. Now you have our very first 4 o'clock matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the LA Chargers. Starting with the Panthers, I'm going to say you're screwed. No Christian McCaffrey, you're done. So Teddy Bridgewater last week threw for 367 yards, no touchdowns and 2 picks. He did get sacked 5 times, so he was left out to die. But this is a good test to see if he can do it. In terms of receiving, David Moore, 120 yards, very good. Robbie Anderson, 109 yards. Mike Davis, 74 yards. So falling apart to the Bucs defense, I get like Brady finally came back and did well. I mean, you gave up a lot to Leonard Fournette, so not bad. And of course, McCaffrey, he had 59 yards last week and 2 touchdowns, so without him, you guys are screwed because he's literally your whole team. And then the Chargers, Tyrod Taylor was a late scratch, but Justin Herbert got the start, and he did a great job. Threw for 311 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Austin Eckler ran for about 93 yards, followed up with 55 receiving yards, so not bad. Keenan Allen only had 96 receiving yards, no touchdowns. Your only touchdown was to Guyton. So honestly, you guys proved that you got some potential. You know, your defense shut down the Chiefs for a good portion of the game. But of course, once their offense gets going, you can't stop them. Because, you know, it went to overtime. Unfortunately, you couldn't score. And Harrison Butker nailed 3 straight kicks from 50-plus yards. Got called for a false start in the first one. Iced the kicker on the second, then nailed the 58-yarder. So, yeah, you guys showed that you got a lot of promise. Herbert, I'm not going to throw out the window. Chargers favored by 6.5. I say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Denver Broncos. Starting off with the Bucs. Not bad last week. You know, you did face off against the Bucs and the Panthers, and they do have a really bad defense, but Tom Brady finally showed that maybe he could be the guy. He had 217 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Of course, Leonard Fournette finally proved that he can be the number 1 guy, as he had 103 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. In terms of receiving, you got to be happy that Mike Evans came back, because had 7 receptions, 104 yards, and a touchdown. And other receivers, you know, Watson only had 48 yards. Gronk had nothing. And you guys are without Chris Godwin, but of course I think Mike Evans is definitely the better player out of the two. Defense did well, but with lack of McCaffrey, you could easily beat the Panthers. And then the Broncos, you guys are in some trouble, facing injuries. No Drew Lock for about 6 weeks. No Phillip Lindsay. I mean, you do got Melvin Gordon. So Jeff Driscoll threw for 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And against the Steelers defense, he did okay for himself. Melvin Gordon only had 70 receiving yards. Oh, yeah, and Cortland Sutton, he did have 3 receptions for 66 yards, but he tore his ACL, so he's out for the season. Jerry Jeudy, 62 yards. Noah Fant, 57 yards on a touchdown. So other than that, you know, without Drew Lock, without Cortland Sutton, this team I just don't think is going to have a lot of potential. I think they are going to struggle. Buccaneers are favored by 6 to win. I say they win, but don't cover the spread. I'm going to say they only win by 4. And now you have our very next match between the Detroit Lions and the Arizona Cardinals. Starting off with the Lions, apparently you've had 4 straight games where you've blown leads that have had 10-plus points. So that's not good. But anyways, Matt Stafford threw for 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Honestly, just couldn't really get anything going. Adrian Peterson ran for 41 yards. Kerryon Johnson came back, 32 yards and a touchdown, and DeAndre Swift was just nothing. In terms of receiving, your big guy was TJ Hawkinson with 62 yards. DeAndre Swift didn't do much on the ground, but did well in the air with 60 receiving yards. And honestly, that's it, because no other guy really did well. You were without Golladay, and the only other guy to have a receiving touchdown was Marvin Jones Jr., and yeah, that's pretty much it. Your defense falling apart to the Packers, I get it. They got a great offense. Aaron Jones just completely feasted on you guys, so nothing wrong with that. And Rodgers did well against you. Both Aarons did well. And then the Cardinals, I see a whole lot of potential in you. Kyler Murray threw for 286 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, but he did follow up with 67 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, so obviously he's the guy, he's your future. Protect him at all costs. In terms of other rushing, Kenyon Drake had 86 yards. In terms of receiving, DeAndre Hopkins, 8 receptions, 68 yards and a touchdown. Andy Isabella, 67 yards. Christian Kirk, 57 yards. And Fitzgerald had 50. So good job spreading the ball around consistently to other guys. But of course, Hopkins is your big guy. Shutting down the football team, not that impressive, but a win's a win. So anyways, Cardinals are favored by 5.5 to win, and I say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our final 4 o'clock matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. Cowboys, huge amount of props for making that comeback against the Falcons, even though the onside kick would have completely ended you. But anyways, Dak Prescott, you know, I give this guy a lot of crap, but he did well. 450 passing yards, a touchdown, no picks. Did have 18 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, but a lot of those were like 1-yard touchdowns, so not bad. Ezekiel Elliott ran for 89 yards and a touchdown, and in terms of receiving, only had 33 yards. Your big receiver of the day, CeeDee Lamb, 106 yards. Amari Cooper, 100 yards. Dan Schultz, 88 yards and a touchdown. Michael Gallup only had 58 yards. But honestly, defense, of course, fell apart. You guys fumbled 4 times in the first half, first quarter, so obviously you got to work on that. But making that comeback against the Falcons, great job, guys, even though I hate you. And then the Seahawks, going up against the Patriots, a lot to prove, and you did well. Russell Wilson, 288 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick, although the pick was because a pass to Greg Olsen, he dropped it. It went off his hands and right into the hands of Devin McCourty. But, of course, great job by him. Had 39 rushing yards. In terms of other rushing, your big guy was Chris Carson, 72 rushing yards. No touchdowns, but he did follow up with 36 receiving yards and a touchdown. But Wilson spread the ball around, mainly to guys like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, David Moore, and Frank Swain. So all of those guys, they had a touchdown. So great job on all of them. The defense, did struggle a little bit with New England, but honestly, I see a lot of potential with Cam Newton as their quarterback. Currently, Seahawks are favored to win this game by 5, and I say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our Sunday Night Football matchup, which I'm looking so forward to, between the Green Bay Packers and my boys in the New Orleans Saints. Starting off with the Packers, well, going up against the Lions at your home, well, good job. You beat the Lions, not that impressive, but a win's, like I say, a win's a win. It's good enough. Aaron Rodgers threw for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. Did a good job for himself, but the big man of the game was Aaron Jones. 168 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, but he followed that up with 68 receiving yards and a touchdown. Great job by him in terms of rushing. Jamal Williams, 63 yards. So honestly, rushing game is strong. In terms of receiving, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 64 yards. Alan Lazard, 45 yards. And Devontae Adams, 36 yards. So honestly, I see a lot of potential. Your defense shut down the Lions, but they're kind of inept, especially with Matt Patricia and the Saints. I swear to God, you better not pull off what you did against the Raiders. So, Drew Brees threw for 312 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Not bad, but that one pick he threw was just awful. A big man of the game was Alvin Kamara, 79 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, but followed it up with 95 receiving yards and a touchdown. Traquan Smith, 86 receiving yards. Ty Montgomery, 25 yards. Deontay Harris, 23. No one really did much else because it was like Alvin Kamara, Traquan Smith, and that was it. No one else really produced. I mean, Jared Cook only had 13 receiving yards and a touchdown, but one thing, guys. Saints, stop taking so many holding penalties and stop taking PIs. It's costing us yards, and literally, if we're not taking those, we could win. We could have beat the Raiders. But I see a lot of potential in them. So Saints, even though we completely blew it last week, we're still favored to win this game by 3. I say we win and cover the spread against the Packers, and I don't want to lose because like I said, I got a friend who's a Packers fan. He will make me wear all his Packer gears for one day if the Saints lose. So I want to win because then I got some Saints gear for him. So Saints win and cover the spread. And now you have what to me is going to be match of the week. Sure, my number 2 would be Packers and Saints, and followed by that, number 3 would be Cowboys and Seahawks. But it is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens. This is just like the 2 guys who are going to be the face of the NFL. Pat Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. Starting off with Patrick Mahomes. Last week you guys had a slow start. But as always, once the Chiefs offense wakes up, you can't stop them. Pat Mahomes threw for 302 yards, 2 touchdowns and no picks. He also had 54 rushing yards. So, of course, the Chargers defense, if you hold his receivers too well, don't forget, he can sneak his way around. Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 38 rushing yards, so not much. In terms of receiving, your big guys were, of course, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Watkins, fell off from his Week 1 performance. But anyways, Tyreek Hill, 99 receiving yards and a touchdown. Travis Kelce, 90 yards and a touchdown. Other than that, your defense did a good job holding Justin Herbert in his debut. But, yeah. Anyways, then the Ravens, last week against the Texans, did well. Lamar Jackson threw for 204 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. He did rush for 54 yards. Now, he's not really getting to the end zone that much, so I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, so I just need him seeing it in the end zone more. Mark Ingram, had one big rush, but he had 55 yards and a touchdown on the day. Gus Edwards, 73 yards and no touchdowns, so rushing was good. In terms of receiving, it was all around the board. Hollywood Brown, only 42 receiving yards. Miles Boykin, 38 yards. Mark Andrews, 29 yards. Willie Snead, 29 yards. So Lamar's kind of spreading it around the field. He doesn't have that true number 1 receiver, even though it really is Mark Andrews. He's usually going to be that. But in terms of wide receivers, you don't really have that number 1. Defense against the Texans, limited them to only 16 points. So good job to you. So currently, the Ravens are favored by 3 to win, but I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. Right now, I just think the Chiefs are the better team. Chiefs win and pull off the victory. And that is going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I love making these videos. But anyways, if you like this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Comment down below who else you think is going to, who you have winning this week, who's your upset of the week, match of the week. If you want to watch my first 2 prediction videos, links to that will be in the description below. If you want to see my Saints review against, a more in-depth review against the Raiders, link to that will also be in the description below. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok @StudentSavage. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day, and hope to God we pull off the win. Who Dat Nation is out.